Well, good evening and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It is a Talk Town special, and Steve's headline this week is Season Review, Hope, Anger and Change. Well, good evening, fellas, and good evening to everybody else that is viewing. It's been a long old season, but we are finally there. It's the end. And first of all, Steve, how are you? And are you glad the season's over?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, got a can of Carling to celebrate the fact that we're still in League One. So yeah, it's doing well, mate. Yeah, looking forward to the season review of, like I said, hope, anger, and change. I could have put depression, but I thought that I'd just take it down a notch.
Well, you're already living up to our first comment in from the Terrier. 54760. So cheers for that. Carl, how are you, my friend? You glad the season's over?
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to put that one behind us. I mean, it's going to be a fun one tonight. I'll be honest. I'm thinking of some. I've got some positives, but not.
It's
enough.
over.
Not enough. Yeah, one of the positives is actually that I don't have to go again for a while.
Come on, guys. Let's find some.
Go on, England. Go on, England.
Let's find some more than that. Okay, so the Terrier 5476 says, good luck trying to find any positives. Well, we're going to try and find some. We will try and find some. And Paul says, good evening, guys. Okay, so the season started with Lee Grant being appointed as the head coach for Huddersfield Town. It was his first job in terms of managing. It was at Ipswich Town, and by all accounts was their attacking coach, who'd scored a lot of goals in the last couple of seasons before he joined us. Your initial reactions, Cal, when it was announced that Lee Grant was taking over Huddersfield Town?
Intrigue is the right word, I'd say, because everybody had a good word to say about him from Ipswich and general football spheres, and everybody said this will be interesting to see how it pans out, and to some extent it was, because he was a completely unknown quantity at the time in which we went and got him, other than he was a former goalkeeper turned attacking coach in Ipswich's side that scored a ridiculous number of goals. So I think at the time I was intrigued, but I was a little bit disappointed that we'd yet again taken a punt on an unknown characteristic, when at the time, arguably, well, not arguably, I'd say this is a fact, we were in a better place than, say, we are now, when in looking at being able to attract somebody into the club.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
I don't know whether there was the necessity to go for the unknown quantity. I don't think we needed to. I think our pulling power at the time was such that we could have got somebody with that League One experience that Lee Grant's tenure showed that we needed.
What you're saying is basically you felt as if there could have been an experienced manager who'd been there and done it, potentially someone who's managed in the league higher as such, or...
Yeah, and those names were out there at the time. Let's not forget.
Michael Duff.
We were linked with lots of them. And yes, Michael Duff, absolutely. However, it didn't work for him, did it? It didn't work for him at Town, and I'm yet to see whether that is a him problem or an us problem. I suspect it's a bit of both. But it didn't work for him, and yes, he's an experienced manager, but didn't work. But there were others out there. There are others out there. But now, after this season, we're looking at it very differently, because actually our stock has fallen again.
Okay, well, Wickham didn't finish above Town, so I'm pretty sure that's probably a good thing for Town going forward, knowing that this actor manager didn't finish above them. Okay, Steve, your reactions when saw Lee Grant come in, you looked at his interviews, you heard them, you watched them. What did you think?
Yeah, quite interesting. Interesting appointment, as Cal says. Pretty well when he researched his background, obviously with in coaching rather than playing, but in coaching, he was well respected from everything that was coming out of Man United, Ipswich, Kieran McKenna, obviously who've been promoted with Ipswich. So all things pointed to the fact that this was a really young, innovative coach that could come in and be a real sort of manager that he's a bit closer in age group to the players. So probably, he's not an old sort of hand. He would be able to interact with players that are, of all ages. And I thought it was an interesting appointment. It was a total gamble, though. It could have gone either way. It could have been a stroke of genius, or it could have turned out like it did turn out. And I thought overall his interviews at the start were all right. Yeah, I thought he was pretty plain speaking. He didn't use too many superlatives, but unfortunately, as we'll go on to comment on, that changed for whatever reason.
Okay, let's talk about preseason. Let's go from preseason then. These were results across preseason before we get to the first game of the season. Emily away, Huddersfield Town lost 3-1. It was also the beat Barrow at home 1-0. Lincoln away 5-3. Young Boys they drew 1 apiece with. They beat Gertha Fürth, also in Austria, as was Young Boys, and they also lost to Burnley at home 2-0 in pre-season. So there were a bit of a mixed bag of results there, Steve. The first one up at Emley, I think that was it would just getting it out there. It was just a bit of football again. Majority of that game, Town were leading. It was when the younger players came on. That's when Town eventually conceded the 3. And by the way, one of them were an absolute perler, if I do remember. But how did you feel as if pre-season went? Because then you've got the win against Barrow. You've got a fantastic win against Lincoln, who went up as champions. Good results against European opposition in Austria. And then, obviously, defeat to Burnley at home, who were a Premier League side, and Kyle Walker playing. Next Premier League champion, Champions League champion as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can never. I don't know how much stock I put into pre-season, because I've seen two flip sides of it. I've seen Town nearly win every pre-season and then have a very disappointing regular season, and I've also seen us lose quite heavily in pre-season, and yet we've had decent seasons off the back of it. So it's a bit of a weird one pre-season. I think what we did get very early on in pre-season is the sort of style of football that Lee Grant wanted to play. The type of players that he wanted in each position. And he used a lot of those pre-seasons. I remember watching the Lincoln game in particular. It was very to and fro, but it was a good exercise in learning different systems and obviously working under him. So I thought overall it was a decent pre-season in terms of getting the players ready, giving them different oppositions to face, those European teams in particular that like you said, we did all right against. And that led into what was the first game of the season. So overall, I thought, yeah, decent. It was one of the better pre-seasons. Put it this way, it was better than the pre-season that we'd had a couple of years ago under a very well-liked manager in Neil Warnock.
Okay, Cal. Obviously, Steve mentioned he thought the pre-season was pretty good. Did that give you much to think for going forward? Did you think, this is going to be a positive year after the pre-season we've just had? We've got someone fresh in who seems to have good ideas. Or at the beginning of the year, there seemed to be a lot of connection between manager and fans.
Yeah, one thing it's going to be really hard to do as we go through this is sort of separate how we're feeling now after what we've seen versus what we were feeling at the time. Because a lot of the time it's quite difficult to look back and go, well, actually, I was quite hopeful at one point this season. But I don't know, because you've got to remember what we're comparing against pre-season wise. If you remember the pre-season before, Neil Warnock took them to Cornwall.
That's what I mean. We could have played.
It was nice to have a proper pre-season. The problem with that is, because we had an awful pre-season the season before and then an awful season, you have a good pre-season, or at least a rigorous pre-season. Everyone starts to think, oh, well, we're going to start playing well then, aren't we? We're going to start going after teams. The fitness is going to be up there with the best in the division. And actually, in those first sort of games, and you could see it against Burnley at home, that the fitness wasn't there actually, and we still had quite a bit of work to do with not a lot of time left coming into the season. I felt there was a lot of, and maybe this is a new manager thing, or maybe this is just a Lee Grant thing. There was a lot of tweaking and changing all of the time.
So that's what we start. Well, that's what we've seen after. So coming up, okay, let's go through a couple of comments, then let's start on the first game of the season. Captain Cisco says, I hope we find out who will be in charge by the end of this month. The uncertainty needs sorting in quickly. Paul says, until he started rambling, coherent pages from the FA playbook. I'm assuming Paul saying he quite liked him until we're doing that. Then we've also got Craig Thompson saying Grant was a huge risk, not even a number 2 at Ipswich. Well, the season started with a superb victory at home in August, 3-0 against Leyton Orient, then a great victory afterwards as well, away at Reading 2-0. I think Cameron Ashier getting his first goal for the club that day before we went into the Carabao Cup, drawing at home to Leicester, where I believe we won on penalties 3-2 as well. And then away to Blackpool, we lost 3-2. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stick with August, and then we're going to stop. We're going to talk about August. At home, we beat Doncaster 2-0, beat Stevenage at home 1-0. Away at Sunderland, 1 apiece. Again, going through on penalties before losing away at Barnsley 3-1. Okay, so that was August. Now, Steve, in our title tonight, you've got hope. Now, I've mentioned a couple of games there which brought you a lot of hope early on in the season. You've mentioned to me, because I've asked it from everyone who was joining tonight, we know Oliver can't make it. Carl's not giving it to me, but I'm going to come to him at some point with him. You said Huddersfield Town 3, Leyton Orient 0, and Huddersfield 2 apiece against Leicester City in the Carabao Cup gave you a lot of hope.
Yeah, it did give me a lot of hope. There was only 2 results that sort of worried me in that August period, which proved pretty pivotal. Blackpool and Barnsley, but for different reasons, which I will quickly touch on. But the rest of the games actually give me a lot of hope. So start on the first day against Leyton Orient. I thought we played really well. It was a different Leyton Orient side, admittedly, as we've seen as the season's gone on. However, there was a lot of good things that happened that day. We seemed to play quick, quite slick football. We were getting it forward quicker. There wasn't this tendency to pass at the back. We didn't see Matty Pearson launching a 50-yard ball to absolutely nobody. You know, we had Joe Lowe score from a corner. You know, Alfie May got a penalty, I believe, from memory. So the season for me started off really well. I think you take that into then the cup games. I thought that brought a real spirit with the group. I've used a Lee Grantism there, sorry. But that brought a real sort of spirit with the team and the supporters, actually. You know, to go beat Leicester City, who have come down from the Premier League with hundreds of millions in their team, and then to go on to win at Sunderland, a fixture that we didn't really think that we were going to have a chance of winning. Leo Castelline scored an absolute beauty of a goal there. And you could see just tethers of something really positive happening between the players and the fan base. You know, you cement that with wins against Doncaster and Stevenage. With the time we thought those were going to be 2 teams that might struggle. And I was kind of thinking, right, we're on to something. You know, we've found a bit of formula. It's not all come together. It's not the full roast dinner, but we've slapped on a couple of Yorkshire puddings and a bit of veg, and we're getting there, you know. And then Blackpool happens, a crazy 15 minutes that I don't think if you go back and watch that game now, you still don't understand what happened in that game. Watmore, unfortunately, who I thought started the season well, unravelled himself, and then there were a couple of other goals, but we fought back, so we showed a bit of spirit in that game. And then to end the month in calamity at Barnsley with Owen Goodman, just left a bit of a sting into August. But overall, I thought August was a really, really good, solid first month.
Carl, have you got anything to touch on August there before we move on to September, which I'll come to you a little bit more?
Yeah, I think August, like we say, was a good month with interesting and worrying little flashpoints. I thought after Blackpool away, that did worry me because of the manner that both sides were playing at the time, and the noise around both clubs was very, very different, and they managed to unpick us quite easily. And we just lost we seem to be losing the battles in sort of every area that day. After going ahead, if I remember, such a good goal. I can't remember if we went ahead through the goal. I was there that day. I'll be honest, the football that day actually ruined the day. So we decided to go out in Blackpool afterwards and just make a day of it because it was a lovely day. But that was worrying for me. And then the one game in August that gave me hope was not actually Leicester, but was Sunderland away. Because I thought, right, Leicester could be a fluke. They could be off it, and we could have been at home. And then we went away to Sunderland and did the same thing. And you thought, oh, actually, maybe there is something about this team that they're not afraid to front it up. And how wrong I was, but it seemed to me that anytime we'd do something that made the town fans go, superb, brilliant, excellent, you'd then have a game afterwards where you're like, oh, there we go, they're back. And that was Blackpool, and it was Barnsley.
Yeah, that Barnsley game was it was interesting, wasn't it? Because then Town, well, they had a game straight after against Newcastle, beat them 6-2 at home against Peterborough, winning that one 3-2. That's when Peterborough just turned their things around before going away to local rivals Bradford and losing that one 3-1. Home to Burton 0-0, and then a massive game in the Carabao Cup. Manchester City came to Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield lost that one 2-0. Beat Exeter away 1-0, and then lose to Harrogate Town 1-0 in the Virtue Trophy. Okay, Carl, let's talk about September. I'm going to come straight back to you. Lots of goals within the month, but not always Huddersfield Town scoring them. Yeah. Was this the start of showing them frailties a little bit more? Like you just mentioned, we've seen bits of it in August, but now, we've seen that Newcastle under 21s, despite that Town scoring 6, they've conceded 2, conceding 2 to Peterborough. Then it's 3 against Bradford, not scoring against Burton, and losing to Harrogate Town as well.
Yeah, it was around here for me that we started to unravel a little bit, and the season started to get. You start to sit up in your chair and think, oh, maybe actually this isn't going to be the season that we thought it was going to be. I distinctly remember that I'm going to skip ahead over the Peterborough game because, yes, a good result on paper, but the way actually that we got the result, we could have done better. It's crazy to say after a win. A win is a win, absolutely, but they were hurting at the time, and we'd still somehow managed to allow them ways back in. We were showing real signs of a lack of clinical touch, a lack of killer instinct. And then we went away to Bradford, and I distinctly remember that being a game where I thought that's I'm done with Lee Grant. I distinctly having that conversation because the results don't make it look as bad as it was. As bad as I remember it feeling, because we were making the same mistakes all the time, and we played a Bradford team that could expose them, and that's all it was. They weren't brilliant. We were so poor.
Okay, Steve, you told me the pain was Bradford City 3, Huddersfield Town 1. What was so painful about it?
Well, it's obvious, isn't it? It's a local derby. It's the local feeling. It's the fact that we'd not played them for so many years in the league. It was the way that not just the clubs had built it up, but the local media. The fact that they were pitting it as big spending Huddersfield against this, their League Two. They've just come up. They've had a flying start to the season, but they want to keep on track, and they just bullied us. That day was just embarrassing. I mean, something happened in the players' minds to go, yeah, we're just not up for this. And to be backed by 4,000 fans that were for the first 15 minutes. I remember this stat so clearly. We had 8 corners in 15 minutes, 8, and not one of them was not one of them all came from it because they weren't very good corners. But we had 8 corners. So in stats terms, if you just looked on paper, we absolutely mullered them in the first 15 minutes. We played well, but we didn't, really take them to the sword. And then they got into the game and it was shambolic. I mean, there's so many times passes went astray, so many times players didn't muscle up in challenges. I mean, Northville might have had the entire, city of Bradford to run on that right-hand side. I agree with Cal. For me, I work like I'm done with Lee Grant, but I'm just like, how can you be tactically that inept that you've played at the top level of British football and you can't see that their best player in Northville is absolutely smashing our left-hand side, with Sean Rowan there. I mean, I felt sorry for Sean Rowan that day because he got no help and Lee Grant just left him to his own devices. And he just couldn't keep up with the lad.
This was my problem, right? I'm not necessarily saying that going into that game, I thought if we lose today, that's it for Grant, because I didn't think that at all. What I saw, though, and what became very clear later on as we get into the later months, but also previous to this, was that they would make mistakes and the tactics wouldn't work. And the players are looking to the manager and the manager's not saying anything. And the changes are not coming. And we're trying to play the same things that aren't working, the same systems that aren't working. Northville absolutely tore us apart down that wing that day, but nobody got any closer to him. We didn't switch wingers. We didn't try and do something different. We kept sort of trying the same thing. And I remember I got a lift back to my car and we were sitting, there were 3 of us in the car and nobody said anything.
I left on 70 minutes. I didn't even see who was its goal. What's his
Yeah.
name? Happy
Redmond.
Redmond. Yeah.
Okay. So we talk about the pain. I think, Steve, something with maybe you might not have mentioned there is certainly with pain, it hurts so much because the first 15, 20 minutes in front of it wasn't 4,000 fans, by the way, probably about 2.
Well, whatever. Fans. It was. It felt. The atmosphere we created was
the atmosphere was great. Yes, you're right. It was fantastic. But they won't going to give us 4,000 fans. You don't get that.
No,
big season. Okay, no. But
all right.
The pain.
As if we're having that conversation.
But yeah, I know. But the pain was because they started so well and should have been in front, right? And then, as you've both mentioned, is that tactically it all fell apart, and there were just there were nothing between. Is that kind of what we're saying?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. But it wasn't just that game, to be fair. I mean, just moving on slightly, it was so painful to sit at the Aku and watch a draw 0-0 with a terrible Burton side. You know what I mean? And thinking you sat there and you got on 90th minute and we've drawn 0-0 and you're like, if we want to get promoted out of this league, we cannot be drawing 0-0 with Burton Albion.
Because basically, Steve, where's the reaction from the loss against a local rival?
Correct.
And we didn't get that reaction.
Well, there wasn't any. I think when we did the podcast, so you can go back and listen, I'm pretty sure the review of that game was absolutely nothing. Because I think even you said you were bored on commentary, from what I remember.
Yeah, maybe.
It's funny when you sort of get played back what you've said in the past, isn't it?
Yeah, cheers, Steve. Okay.
I didn't say commentary was boring.
We had a short one in October.
Let's not talk about October.
We had 3 losses. Stockport 2-1 at the Aku, also losing to Bolton 2-1 at the Aku, and then go down to Wickham. And this was the interesting one because Michael Duff had taken over Wickham and Town lost 3-0. Alfie May getting his first red card of the season. It was a big month. We said it in pre-season on the podcast. October was the big month, and that's how we all know what's going to happen at the end of the season. and they lost all 3 games. In fact, there should have been another game, if I'm right. Should have played Cardiff, but that was postponed due to international duty. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and that's where we should have going. Right, we know where we are. If we get maximum points, we're going up.
Yeah.
If we don't get anything, we're in League One again. And
hey, we were spot on.
Enough, we were right, weren't we?
I think the thing you look. Yeah.
Go on, Steve. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, look, like you look back on them games. The Stockport game was a terrible game when you look back on it as well. Bolton, I think is it the anger bit that I've put after this, Kane? I can't remember. I think the anger bit is included in this, but
you've got one game in this one, mate. Yeah,
one game with Wickham. Yeah, I tried to block the Stockport game out because it was terrible. But yeah, you could probably put the Bolton game in this. To be fair, losing like the lead that we had, that was a crazy end to that game, wasn't it? I just remember the absolute depression sitting at the end of that game and thinking, how the hell have we lost it? And then you go to Wickham and you just you basically get your pants taken down, don't you, by Michael Duff, who goes, you shouldn't have sacked me. You know, and Alfie May getting sent off. I think that was his first career red card. He just lost his head. And yeah, I mean, when you pay 1.5 million or 1.2 million for your striker to come in, you don't expect him to get sent off. You expect him to score, but he didn't. So yeah, October was a horrific month.
Bad month. As you mentioned, the Bolton game, Town 1-0 up and conceded 2 in both 90+ minutes. I'm sure that don't come to be a bit of a theme this season, but we'll talk about that. Cal, we were glad to get over October, weren't we?
Yeah, October were a rough old month. But that then fed into, that was the point where everyone was sort of then joining the, he's got to go now sort of bandwagon.
This is kind of where it started, didn't it?
Yeah.
Wickham definitely.
Wickham. I distinctly remember that. Yeah. But
yeah.
I remember, and I'm screeching here massively, pulling us into the next month, but it's Bolton again in the FA Cup. But I remember that game because I went to that. Christ knows why I ended up going to that. It was one of them where you sat there after about 15 minutes. I'm looking around, like, what am I doing here? Why have I come here? Because that was one of those games, though, where in Town have had these when they've not been doing so well. It seems to be something that we do quite a lot. We have games where everything just goes wrong and players are arguing with each other. And I distinctly remember Joe Taylor arguing with fans after the game. And that's always a good sign that everything's going really well and everyone's really thrilled with the direction of the football club. But that was another really poor example on the back of a month where, in all competitions, let's not forget that we'd lost 4 games on the spin, 5 actually, if you take the Harrogate Town away fixture, in which we were awful again.
Awful.
But I'm just looking at it now. Unfortunately, it's not like you can look at the Harrogate game and go, well, they'll play the second and third string there. No. We had pretty much a first team out there, with the exception of a second or third string defence.
Yeah, I think it was George Yapenda, Tom Yapenda's brother, and two other lads that played. I think apart from that,
and Dan Vost in midfield, but other than that, you had Goodman, Gooch, Rowan Asher, Taylor Radulovic, and Dion Charles.
Yeah,
and that's another one where you think, right, Christ, okay. It reminded me very much of Tamworth, FA Cup Tamworth. What is the problem with these players where they go away to a smaller side that you're expecting to put away with ease? And this is no disrespect to Harrogate. It's Harrogate. Just been relegated from League Two. And we can't do it. Do we think that we're better than what we are, or do we think that there's a lack of confidence? And that was just a pattern. But yeah, October, the writing was on the wall, wasn't it, really? And I'd like to say it did actually get better from there, but
Well, we'll talk about that in a sec. Let's go through some comments because we've got plenty coming in. So thank you very much for those. Paul says, I think that Bradford and Barnsley games we showed was lacking any final threat. Never replaced Castledine, a major concern, a major cause of the season decline, says Ian. Mike Aronson, those early defeats at Blackpool and Barnsley exposed a soft underbelly, which kept happening throughout the season. Defence has been an issue all season, says Captain Cisco. He also says we buy what we're supposed to be getting good players, then do nothing for us. Paul says Lee Grant couldn't set up a team to combat the low block. Teams were fearless because we couldn't play teams what used that system. Wayne also mentioned that Bradford loss was the downfall of Grant. We just depressing ourselves going over what might have been from last season. Let's look forward. Hopefully, Liam Manning's situation will be resolved. I hope he's getting the help him and his family needs. Cheers, Dale. I like the positivity, buddy. I hope you're well. And Nana Paul says, to be fair, boring was said a lot on commentary throughout the season, as Dan does the commentary.
Not bad, Kane. Not bad, Kane.
Yeah. Tam West was the worst post I've ever seen as Captain Cisco. Okay, let's focus back on this season.
Just one comment on the comment there. Dale, we will be, having shows coming up where we do look to the future. We just wanted to get this one out of the way, mate, to be honest, just to review the season. But we will come to shows where we look about decisions in the future. So please do tune in for them as well, because they will be interesting where we look at what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, probably a couple of weeks. We'll see how we get on tonight when we'll do that one. Okay, back to the fixtures then. As Carl just mentioned, FA Cup in November, lost to Bolton away 2-1, and then at home against Mansfield, beating them 3-1. 3-1 against Plymouth at home, 3-1 away against Mansfield back in the league, and then a loss to Luton away 2-1, and a draw against Wimbledon at home 3 apiece. Steve, November. Lots of goals again, some highs and some disappointments.
Yeah, November, I think, will be looked back on two managers. Our manager, Lee Grant, and Plymouth's manager, what's his name?
Tom Cleverley.
Tom Cleverley, sorry. Yeah, Tom Cleverley. I think, I think Lee Grant had a bit of a comeback. With the Mansfield game, the Plymouth game, and the Mansfield game again, and we were thinking, we've had us blip now. All teams go through a blip. Our blip's been quite big, as Cal said, lost 4 to 5 on the spin, but we might get back to something like now. And I think there was a little bit of positivity that came back, particularly after that third Mansfield game. But then the Luton game just brought us back down to earth. I think a lot of people watched that live on Sky, and I know I did, and it was just depressing again. And then the 3-3 Wimbledon was just, it's been a recurring thought throughout all the season, isn't it? We take the lead and then we get pegged back. We take the lead, then we get pegged back. And it's just like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that month will be known sort of as two managers' journeys. Tom Cleverley went the right way and Lee Grant eventually went the wrong way.
Cal, around this time, obviously, you mentioned that Bradford City, you was quite happy for Lee Grant to go. And I think against Wickham, fans more or less were quite happy with him to go. Do you think this period of time might have been, actually, it might be okay? I'm not saying you specifically, because I know you don't, but with the results that he had.
Yeah, he was doing enough to keep his job, I think. I think any manager's doing enough to keep the job when you get back-to-back 3-1 wins across the board. And we did look better in those games. Certainly the Plymouth game, I thought we looked really good. But it comes back to the inconsistency of the side that you go away to Bolton on the first of the month and you lose in the FA Cup, and then you go to Mansfield and you win 3-1, and you go to Plymouth and you win 3-1. Then Mansfield come to you and you win 3-1. Then you go to Luton, who were stinging, and at the time were not very good, and you lose 2-1. And you think, how can you not ride that momentum? How can you not carry your performances with you? Because it's very much like an average performance, whether it's coming from a loss into a win or a win into a loss or a win into a win. Every performance under Lee Grant was a completely separate and isolated event than the one that came before. There was never any continuity in the way that the team carried themselves. And I always throw it back to the example that when Huddersfield Town were going up to the Premier League, for example, there was a spell where what did we play that season? We played Newcastle away the second game of the season and we won. And we seemed to carry that momentum through a good number of games, almost riding on the high of thinking, oh my God, we've just beat a team that's come down from the Premier League. We seem incapable of doing that in recent times. We treat every game like it's a different event. And that's this month personified because, yes, very good. And you think, oh, maybe. And then you go to Luton and you lose. And you think, oh, maybe not.
I think that coincided with actually Bojan coming back into the team from memory, from an injury. I think Bojan came back. He played in the Mansfield. He played in both Mansfield games, and he played in Plymouth because there were Bojan and Charles up front. For 3 games, they looked all right. And then from memory, somebody can put me wrong, I'm pretty sure they rested Bojan for the Luton game, and we only played Charles up top, and that's when it all went wrong. And then he came back from the Wimbledon game, and I'm pretty sure he got injured in that Wimbledon game.
I have to say, Dion Charles scored in each of those games.
Yeah. Everybody thought, oh, we might be getting the Bolton Dion Charles, and then
we very much remained with the Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, let's move on to December then, because we're currently end of November. We're seeing inconsistencies, but sometimes we're seeing good results. We're seeing goals, but we're also seeing a bit of defensive frailties and being easy to beat at times, as well as disciplinary issues. So that's where we're at coming into December. Now, for me, there's going to be a very key fixture. In fact, there's going to be 2 very key fixtures for me in December. Steve, I know there is one for you. Okay, so December, away to Lincoln in the Virtue Trophy. Town win 2-0. Away to Cardiff, they lose 3-2. They draw away from home at Northampton, 1 apiece. Draw at home to Wigan, 1 apiece. Beat Rotherham away 3-1. Beat Port Vale 5-0 at home on Boxing Day and beat Northampton at home 2-0. Okay, now, where do we start in December? Where do we start?
Beginning.
Did you say at the beginning?
At the beginning. I think I don't know what your Lincoln away in the cup. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'm trying to channel my energy into what you're thinking came for the other fixture. But I think it's Northampton and Wigan, the 1-1 and the 1-1. I could be wrong. One of mine definitely is Wigan 1-1 because after that game, the atmosphere changed. I mean, very rarely have we ever heard an entire Aku Stadium, or in its other guises of its names, boo a manager so loudly.
Fortress Aku.
But Fortress Aku was Fortress booing that day.
You missed an open goal there, mate. You missed Fortress Akboo.
Oh, Akboo. But yeah, I think that day sums up where the Town fan base were. I mean, 95% of people wanted Grant out of the football club. For me, those 2 fixtures sum up December and this sort of season story.
Yeah, the Wigan game is. Am I right in thinking that was the one when he made the subs and he was booed because of the subs?
Yeah. I mean, no, that wouldn't be. What?
Okay, Cal. Why would you do that?
Why would you do it, Cal?
The subs didn't make sense. I distinctly remember at the time thinking the subs didn't make sense. You just took off the players that were playing well. You think, wow. Yeah. And I was just very happy that I wasn't alone in thinking that, because quite often I have been, and my lack of football nous has been exposed to the entire South Stand. However, sort of nice to turn around and everybody's giving it some.
Yeah, Paul says loudest boos ever. He was clueless on the sideline. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna put my 50 pence in here. to go away to Northampton, who were in the relegation zone, and change your formation to a back five was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was absolutely shocking. Something needed to change, and it was not going to a back five. Now, the argument would be, well, actually, it went to a back three. Too defensive. The wing backs that day were not wing backs, they were full backs. You cannot do that because this team needed some confidence. This team needed to go out away from home without the fans on the back, go let off some steam and get in the face of an opposition. Perfect thing to do. Just after a loss against Cardiff, where you still scored 2 goals, great time to go and do something like that. With some change, in the face, front foot. Did exactly the opposite. And then to come at home and be booed by the fans for substitutes that you make, that was writing on the wall.
I think as well, it doesn't help that I always point to this Northampton game as us not beating Bradford away is not the reason why we didn't finish in the top 6.
Yeah.
It's games like this that are the reason why. And what's really nifty about FootMob is that it shows me the results for the other teams of that game week as well. And this highlights for me our problem is that in a game against Northampton, and no disrespect to Northampton, where we should have taken all 3 points. Yeah, we didn't. However, Bradford went to Port Vale, won 2-0. Plymouth went to Wickham, won 1-0. Bolton went to Mansfield, won 1-0. Lincoln went to Barnsley, won 3-1 this week. They're all the teams that are in and around us that are getting the results that they need to get to be where they finished ultimately. And it's where we consistently failed.
The only reason he wasn't sacked after Wigan was because we were still, I think, technically in the top 6 from memory.
This might be quite a fun little game. I'm going to go back on my Twitter and find these dates and just see if I had anything to say at the time.
Yeah.
But I think after Wigan, he should have gone. He should have been sacked an hour after the game.
Yeah, because you lose the fan base, don't you? There, if you're getting booed for the substitutes you're making when you've still got half a season to go, is that it, Steve?
Yeah, 100%. But even in the wins, because we got. What did you say, Ken? We got 3 wins after that Wigan game in December, I think.
So after Wigan, we beat Rotherham 3-1 away from home, beat Port Vale 5-0, and then beat Northampton 2-0. Yes, they got the win, Steve, but Northampton has gone down bottom of the league. Rotherham have gone down. Port Vale have gone down. Northampton, we just mentioned them, they went down.
Yeah, and Darren Moore got sacked after the Port Vale game. That we won, that we beat them 5-0. So I mean, my point is, even after them 3 wins, Kane, even after the Northampton 2-0, which I remember was not a very good performance from memory, fans still wanted him out, and that all led back to the Northampton game at the start of the month and the Wigan game.
Okay, so coming up to January, so at the time. Before in December, he's been booed by the fans for making subs. He's changed his formation to a -1 away from home against a team who were in the relegation zone and eventually got relegated. Would have been a good time, but they said no to the club and stuck with him through January. This is where things start to change, though. Okay, whether it's for the better or not, that is a different situation. Okay, so January. Away from home, Lincoln won a piece, and then draw at home to Exeter 2-1. Beaten by Stockport away from home 1-0. Beat Rotherham at home in the Virtue Trophy 3-0, and then lose to Burton 3-1 away from home. And on that day, I'm not going to go through the rest of January. On that day, Lee Grant was sacked after 3 wins in his last 12 Sky Bet League One fixtures. Cal, was it a little bit too late in the season?
Yeah, Absolutely. At this point, the game's gone. The game's gone. I mean, I have just scrolled back through my Twitter, and on the 9th of December, there is there's one tweet. It'd actually be quite refreshing if he just resigned, wouldn't it? Save your pride and just go. The only other thing I've got on the 1st of January, the Lincoln game, the 82nd minute is too late for a sub. And I remember being absolutely furious that he'd bought on Kasumu for Castledine in the 82nd minute, but we hadn't made a sub beforehand. And you just thought, right, okay, he's doing it on purpose. He's trying to get sacked, or
that was his only sub that game.
Yeah, and this was, obviously was sacked after Joe Taylor was allowed to leave on loan, who basically single-handedly kept Wigan up this season with his goals. It was interesting, wasn't it, Steve, around January?
It's the most mental decision probably going back 25 years since we sold Stewart to Ipswich. I mean, I'm not saying it's as pivotal as that because Ipswich went up instead of us, but it's pretty damning, isn't it? Joe Taylor's gone on and scored, is it 12 goals in 14 games, something like that? I don't know the exact stat, but it's mad anyway. But yeah, January was again. I still don't understand how he didn't go after Wigan. I mean, there's so many games there that you've read out between that Wigan game and the Burton Albion game. It's pretty shocking. I mean, probably going to Lincoln and getting 1-1 draw with where they were at and what they were looking to achieve was probably a good result for Grant. And the Rotherham game in the Cup, I mean, I just remember sitting there and thinking, Rotherham are crap. I think I used that word in that podcast about 90 times, by the way, Rotherham are crap.
You did, yeah.
But I just knew that even though we won that game, it didn't matter. People just wanted him out the football club. And I think by that stage as well, Kim, what didn't help is I talked right at the start of the podcast about how he communicated with the fans, and I thought it was decent in his first couple of interviews. As the season went on, and by the time he got to Burton Albion, he literally was seeing the opposite of what was happening in games to the 400, 500, up to 3,000 fans that were travelling away.
I do definitely remember that after the Burton game. That was shocking.
And definitely the 12, 13,000 that were sitting at home. I mean, the Burton game literally kept going something like, we've got this many XG, we've had this many shots. And I'm like, mate, we've had about 4 shots all game. And we scored 1 goal, which was Alfie May in the, I don't know what minute it was. I think it was in the second half, but it was shocking. It was, but it was so, the performance was so opposite to what he'd said in the interview afterwards was horrific.
Alfie May scored in the 28th minute.
Well, 28th minute, whatever.
Burton scored their first in the 4th minute.
Yeah, but my point being is, after the game, his interview after that game is probably the most deluded interview I've heard a town manager.
Yeah, it was really was that the one where he started talking about we were really good in phases?
In phases,
1 and 2 and 4.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You sort of think even you're running out of ideas now.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Go on, Cal.
It's one of those, isn't it? Like Stephen says there, at that point the ship has sailed. The idea that he stays is not a viable one anymore. And with every loss, it got a little bit closer. But then you were at a point where we played Rotherham and we won, and nobody cared. It was really odd.
Nobody cared.
Weird feeling that it meant nothing, that we'd won 3-0 at home in the EFL Trophy, yes, but a 3-0 win at home against Rotherham. At one stage, that would have been like a game that you'd got up for, and you thought, right, sort of local-ish, Yorkshire derby-ish, get up for it. But nobody did, and we won and nobody cared. And then Burton, I distinctly remember thinking, if he doesn't go today, he's not going.
It wasn't even anger, was it? It was just apathy. By that stage, it wasn't even anger. Like the Bradford game, the Barnsley game, the games that we've said, they were all angry after that game.
Yeah.
There were anger in the stadium, whether it was away from home or at home. the difference with the Burton and the Northampton and the Wigan, well, not necessarily the Wigan game, but definitely the Northampton away and definitely the Burton away, fans just didn't care. They were just like, well, if you're not bothered, lads, we're not bothered.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Because I'm just looking at time as well, gents. Yeah. Interesting one, maybe a little bit too late in a lot of people's minds, but he was eventually relieved of his duties. On the 20th of January, Liam Manning was appointed as first team head coach. These were the rest of the results in January. Huddersfield Town won, Bradford City 0, Huddersfield Town 1, Luton 0, Peterborough 2, Huddersfield Town 3. So 3 wins off his first 3 games. And Steve, you've got down here the change. Huddersfield Town 1, Bradford City 0. Like, what a change it was. That game itself was so different to what we'd seen all season.
Oh, the atmosphere in that stadium against Bradford at home was something I don't think I'd seen for a number of seasons. The passion and the ferocity of the crowd was unbelievable. I mean, it was like we sort of got our football back in a sense. You know, the players. It was the chalk and cheese to the Bradford away performance. The players were muscling up. They were getting into challenges. You know, they were passing the ball properly. I remember Ledson having a particularly really good game. We'd not seen that from him before. And for me, it was the perfect start for Manning. He couldn't have started any better. That was the perfect game for him to come into the football club for and get a win.
Cal, how did you think his start went?
Yeah, that was, you know, the Bradford game was up there on a level that I've rarely seen, even in the sort of halcyon days of when Huddersfield Town were good. It was possibly the most shackles off fixture you could have seen. The players look rejuvenated and they were first in for every ball. It was superb, but I wouldn't put that down to Liam Manning.
Okay.
As much as I would put it down to the selection of Lee Grant, because actually, how much time did Liam Manning spend on the training pitch with him beforehand? Minimal.
Well, Cal, just hold your thought then, because let me go through the February fixtures, and I'm going to come straight back to you on how much that was Liam Manning. Huddersfield Town 2, Blackpool 2 at the start of Feb. Town drew to Doncaster in the Virtue Trophy, eventually losing that one on penalties. Beaten by Stevenage away from home 1-0. Beaten by Doncaster away from home 1-0. Then Town beat Barnsley at home 2-1 before losing to Wigan away 1-0 in February. Was that Liam Manning then?
Yeah, it was. But I don't necessarily think that it's all Liam Manning's fault. I think the problem with these coaches and this team at this time was that by that point they'd been overcoached.
Yeah.
When you try and learn a very sort of admin heavy system with Lee Grant where it relies on a lot of moving parts, he wants you to do a lot of things a lot of the time, and it's all very involved on the training pitch and all very stats heavy, and you know, and then you get Liam Manning coming where it seems to be very much the same. And he might be a bit more of a football man, but he's still heavily into his, you know, drilling what he wants his players to be, exactly where he wants them to be and when. And you know, if you had 2 different people telling you to be in 2 different places during a season, you're going to find it hard. And I think that's been our problem, is that when, and I know we say it all the time, and before we sort of get onto it, I don't want him to come back, but when Warnock came in with the clear view of keep the team up, it was the simplicity that kept them up. I think it was the, you know, go out and just play in the roles that you know how to play football and you're professional footballers. There wasn't that great deal of overcoaching where they're told in the nth degree where they need to be and when. But I think that's what we've suffered from this season, in that every player has been told by 2 separate managers and 2 separate assistant managers and backroom teams what they need to be doing and when, and it's just gone in one ear and out the other, unfortunately. And I think that's certainly where are we looking? Sort of the Blackpool at home was when people start to raise eyebrows and go, right, he's had them on the training pitch now and he's got his ideas across to them, and we actually look worse than we did when he had very little control over them.
Steve, is that how you felt as well?
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, very similar. I think by the Doncaster game in the middle of the month where we'd lost 1-0, I think the players probably thought it's not going to happen this season, is it? I think I got the feeling that they were starting to feel, the magic's not happening as much as they were trying to portray that coming out after games and saying we need to stick together and all this. They probably were a feeling in the dressing room. It's not happening.
So it wasn't looking good for Liam Manning, was it then? Coming up into March. So these are your next results. 1-0, Town beat Rotherham at home and then drew away to Port Vale in a goalless draw. At home to Lincoln, it was 2 apiece before losing to Plymouth 3-1. And what a difference a couple of months have made for them two teams, Steve?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, it was the redemption of Tom Cleverley. I mean, literally, he was a ghost at Plymouth, and then somehow he I think didn't he win something like 7 on the trot or something daft like that. It was mental. That Plymouth game was shocking. Like, I remember the goals were absolutely terrible. They were awful from a defensive point of view, just awful. I mean, Ballymumba was shocking that day. That I remember. At the Port Vale game, equally. I mean, the fact that we beat them 5-0, all right, under a different manager, less than 2 months ago, and then we couldn't even score a goal against them.
Bottom of the table at this point as well. It has to be said.
Yeah, they were bottom of the table. They were shocking. But yeah, that was bad. Yeah, you didn't want to lose faith, did you, in Liam? But he didn't. He didn't make it easy for people, did he?
No. Cal, what were your thoughts on this month?
At this point, for me, and I don't like to be sort of that one, but it was done for me. There wasn't a semblance of me thinking that we were gonna, if we did get into the playoffs, that we were gonna win the playoffs. And this is where my sort of fear started to set in. That, oh my God, what if by some fluke we do get in the playoffs and we do the classic Huddersfield Town of then winning the playoffs? What does it then look like if we do go up? And what sort of a season are we going to have next year? It's going to be horrible. But the Plymouth game for me was where I'm looking and I'm going, right, these players, there's something going on here, because you don't play like that and give away goals like that if there's not something going on. I mean, the goalkeeping was atrocious. And looking at the side that we put out, I noticed that Dale's put a quote from Brian Clough in there. The side that we put out on that day should have been more than enough to put away that Plymouth side. And to be fair, there's a wonderful Cloughy quote that goes along with it, that it looked good on paper, but unfortunately football's played on grass.
That certainly is. Okay, following that month, on the 25th of March, it was confirmed that Liam Manning has been granted compassionate leave for the remainder of the 2025-26 Sky Bet League One season. And it will be over, then the rest of the season will be overseen by Martin Drury and John Stead. And as always, we did on the podcast itself, we wish Liam Manning all the best, and hopefully he gets himself in a better position, well, mentally sooner rather than later. And we all support him, which all Huddersfield Town fans did. Now, regardless of what was happening on the pitch, I do want to say I thought the reaction from the fans across the club was unbelievable for Liam Manning. I don't know if you two thought the same. You know, it's never easy when you're following a club that you want to go and do well, even though they haven't. When something like that happens, it just shows that there's something more than football, isn't there?
Yeah. But it's not something that I didn't not expect, if you know what I mean. We're the sort of fan base that we're very passionate about this club, and we'll certainly say when things are not going right what we think. However, when there's a tragedy happens, or there's something that brings people together that's more than football, we're the sort of fan base that says, you know what, leave opinions on the pitch, and get behind the people that need you in that moment. And obviously Cal and the South Stand made a bit of a sign, and I think the first game after that was definitely a good sort of rendition of what town fans, and how we come together for these things, like we have done in the past. Whether it's Jordan Sinnott or other people that have suffered loss or had something really bad happen to them, whether that's been a town player or a staff member.
Yeah. Okay, these were the remaining results. I'm also going to include May's result, even though there was one of them. In April, Town at home drew to Reading 1 apiece, beat Leyton Orient 2-1 away in a last-minute winner, but drew to Wickham at home 3 apiece, drew to Cardiff at home 1 apiece, drew away to Bolton 3 apiece, got absolutely smashed by Mansfield at home 4-1 before absolutely smashing Wimbledon 4-0 away from home. Cal, back end of the season, weird one. Performances seem to have got better, but they just couldn't see games out.
Yeah, and what I've just said about the teams being overcoached, so let's throw another 2 coaches at them. And yeah, performances have improved, but is that because they're being coached better under Stead and Drury? I'm sorry, folks, I don't think so. I think it's more the case that they'd nothing to lose because they'd nothing to play for. You might sit there and say, well, actually, we could have nipped in 6th. We weren't ever going to nip into 6th because we weren't putting the performances in during the rest of the season to be able to do it. Them players knew it. We knew it really deep down. If you think about it, we knew that playoffs were done long before they were mathematically done. I just think I always credit managers that come in when things are not going well or there's been adversity in the club, and it takes a big man or big men to step into shoes like that when that's not necessarily what you want. That's not what you got the job for. You didn't apply to be the manager of Huddersfield Town Football Club. You applied to be one or both of the assistant managers to the manager. So credit to stepping in where sort of nobody else would. But this I want to rubbish this nonsense that we've got better. We've won some of the games that we should have won, but we've also lost where we have been losing consistently. And we've lost in games where it makes us look like we're not as good as where we should be for the money that we've spent. So we've not gone backwards, but we've not gone forwards. And I think that's the story at the end of the season. It's just sort of a drab end to what's been a very, very, very drab season.
Steve, are you in agreement there with Cal?
I agree on some bits, but I do slightly agree with him on others. I feel that I started the season saying hope. We then went to pain. We then went to anger. We then went to change. And I feel like the Wickham, Bolton and Cardiff game gave us a slight chink of hope. Slight. And I'm talking very slight in terms of getting into the playoffs. However, it's the hope that kills you. The players, whilst they performed well in some parts of those games, there were other parts defensively that were atrocious and shouldn't have let the goals in that they did. And as Cal said, it ended drab. I mean, it ended with basically a 4-1 battering from Mansfield that was pretty much of a disgrace. And every fan that attended that game should have got the money back. And then 4-0 away at Wickham when literally it doesn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter to them, didn't matter to us. Who cares? You could have just postponed that game and saved everybody's legs.
Well, Fair enough. Okay, last couple of bits then, gents, because we've gone over the hour. We want to keep it about an hour. It's nice, good length for us. Let's have a go through some comments. In the meantime, gentlemen, I want you to come up with a sentence to describe the season. Keep it clean. Player of the season, goal of the season, moment of the season. And just to let everyone know, we will talk about players' return list and what goes forward in about a couple of weeks' time when Steve is back from Amsterdam. So a couple of comments. They will mention about that we will come back. He's going to definitely tune into that one. CW up the town. Burton's, Northampton's, Wigan, etc. That sixth place was always a false position. That was talking about when Town was still in there despite some of these poor results or getting the results that they needed. Lee Grant, he never took responsibility, blamed the team always. I think the question mark needs to be asked to mark him after the January transfer window. Overall, it's one of the worst I can recall, but I'm talking in hindsight, says Dale. Again, another up the town. Barley Slumber says, Paul, other than Leighton Orion, it was a matter of what might have been, says Dale. And then also we've got they have done no better during instead. They didn't improve us. Results were mixed more than licorice, all sorts. Okay, thank you very much for your comments. They've been wonderful as always. John is saying, okay, let's go with goal of the season then. Let's go with goal of the season, Steve.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It's tough. Castledine put a few in early on, but then you've had Ledson.
I know. Oh, probably.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go Ledson. I'll go Ledson because we haven't seen a goal like that since Tony Cars in 2003, I think. So yeah, Ledson.
So Ledson, is that the one against Luton from inside his own half?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Cal?
Yeah, same one for me.
Same one.
Goal. The audacity to strike that and get the sweet curve on. Oh, superb.
Castledine's at Sunderland. Very close second.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? So John also agrees. We've also got Paul saying that too. He did just put Ledson afterwards. No brainer, Ledson. The reason he took that shot was because he was tired.
Absolutely, should get tired more often.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
Sorry, just set that one to VAR. He took that shot when he was tired on the 47th minute.
Yeah, but Town were down to
in the background.
Town were down to 10.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. Sorry, I'd forgotten all of the peripheral details. Apologies.
Yeah, come on. Jed's asking about the howler season. Come on, Jed. We're trying to find some positives now, Jed. We're not going to do that.
Yes, Jed, my boy.
Okay.
I got time, Jed.
Yeah. Player of the season, Cal?
How sad that I'm going to have to say Leo Castledine. How sad.
Should we leave loan players out of it?
No. We can be all player of the season.
We are finished.
Okay, so Castledine for you, Cal, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, the man's still the top goal scorer. When did he leave? January?
Okay.
Yeah,
Steve?
Yeah, it'll have to be Castledine, won't it? Yeah.
I'm going for Radalovic. Although,
you know what? It's fair play.
Yeah, Johnny's saying Wallace. Paul's also going for Wallace. And Jed's also
just because you're scared of him, that's all.
Scared of who?
Scared of Murray Wallace. All these boys scared of Murray Wallace, that's why.
Well,
lads. You can say Castledine, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think Radalovic has been brilliant.
Because he came on for Borough with 10 minutes to go in playoff of the day and didn't do well.
The only thing is, he's been brilliant, but he's only been brilliant for 2/3 of a season.
Well, and Castledine were only brilliant for half a season.
Yeah, but
Castledine was only brilliant for the time that we were allowed to have him.
If we were allowed to have him, yeah, that's the point. If he was here all season, he'd probably scored 20 goals.
All season would have been up.
Yeah. Okay, gents.
Not up, but...
Moment of the season. Who wants to go first?
Well, let Cal go first because I'm being greedy. I've got two. One's a funny one, but one's an actual answer.
Okay.
Moment of the season.
Have you got one? It doesn't have to be good or bad. It just what defined the season for you?
Oh Christ! Don't ask me that. That's depressing. Moment of the season one being the Twitter meltdown when Lee Nichols' wife went into labour, so he left in his full kit, and everyone went, "Oh, it means he's leaving." Oh, he's had a fight and he's left.
Fine. Yeah, I like that one. Okay, Steve.
That one was good.
I'm going to be great. My proper answer. Now I'll go with my funny answer first. Funny answer is McGoldrick being kicked in the head by Goodman. It wasn't really funny.
Goodman ended up playing with McGoldrick in the same season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Imagine the conversation that day. Oh, sorry for nearly horse kicking you in the head, mate. But the proper answer is the Bradford win at home.
Yeah, it was.
I thought I thought the end of that game, I watched the celebrations probably 4 or 5 times that the club put out, and I thought it was magnificent.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
it was.
Okay. I like that. There's a positive one then. Jed said Alfie May arguing with Grant on the halfway line was his moment of the year.
That was good. That was really good, actually.
And Paul saying get rid of Grant finally and beating Bradford at home. That game was electric. Okay, gentlemen, let's wrap it up with the last bits. Has either of you got a sentence that summarises this season?
Yeah, but I'll let Cal go first if he's got one. Bobby Wales for another moment of the season, by the way. What a superb performance he put in. Cheers, lad.
Cheers, Swansea. Go on, Steve. Leave it with me.
All right then. So mine is expectations were all, but mid-table mediocrity was the actual result.
Okay. Cool.
It's only up from here, troops.
That's your season review sentence.
It's only up from here.
Top 2 or nothing, boys. Top 2 or nothing. Just remember that.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah. I think we're just being nasty now.
We did gloss over the fact that I accidentally, thanks to this podcast, became the unofficial spokesperson of the Lee Grant Hate Club in, I think it was January, because I had a little bit of a rant about Lee Grant and Kevin Nagle on this podcast that somebody clipped up and shared on Twitter.
These people watch us. Cheers for everybody.
Yeah, that could have been your moment, Cal.
Probably Jed.
Yeah.
Oliver's definitely was his refereeing performance earlier this year. I ain't got one for you, Kane, actually. I need to
you were here and Stephen had to take the reins for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, panicked. Mama went out.
My teacher.
Did you all misbehave and not listen?
Yeah, I sat in the wrong place.
Okay, gents, right, let's wrap it up. Look, it's been a tough season, but we are at the end of it. If anyone is interested, we are going to do a player review retain list. We're going to speak about that in a couple of weeks' time. Steve is away next week, so we can't do it next week. Maybe by the time we're back on, we might have an answer who is going to be in charge. We might not do. We might be able to talk about that as well. But everyone that has tuned in this evening, thank you very much. You know the score. Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of jazz. Steve, happy season ending. Cal, happy season ending. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm not going to say thank you for the season because we've not done yet. We've still got another pod or 2 to do. But once again, have a wonderful week, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. It has been a West Yorkshire Football Show, the Talktown Special, season review, hope, anger and change. And until next time, we shall see thee.